Hello, and welcome to Up to Standard. In celebration of World Metrology Day 2021, the Metrology Department of the St.Kitts-Nevis Bureau of Standards visited the Bronte Welsh Primary School to make a presentation about metrology.
My name is Iron Odain. I am a chemical engineer and I work at the St.Kitts-Nevis Bureau of Standards. This morning I'm going to have a conversation with you about the importance of measurement, the history of measurement, and how it impacts our daily lives, and also what we do at the St.Kitts-Nevis Bureau of Standards in terms of metrology, in terms of measurement science. Okay, so this morning you're going to learn the importance of measurement. As I said before, brief history of metrology, what is metrology, types of metrology, and the impact of metrology. Now, whether you're aware or not, everything you do is being measured. From the time, actually before you're born to the time you die, you're being measured. For example, this morning, how much of you had teeth before you come to school? 1, 2, 3, almost everybody. So when you had the tea, your mother would have measured out some water. She would have put a tea bag in it, and she would also use spoon sugar. That in itself is measurements. So right there, you have measurement being placed. When you woke up, if you have an alarm clock, you have time being measured. You have the water that you use to bathe at mornings being measured. You have the electricity being measured. Everything is essentially being measured. When you buy a product, the quality of the product depends on the measurements that the manufacturer uses. Okay. Now, could you give some examples, a few examples of a few things that you might have did today that you use measurement? Here. Say that again? Alarm. The alarm clock. That's time. Okay. Anybody else? Okay, you. You use water. Okay. Anybody else? Okay, you. Say that again? Can't hear it. Speak up a bit. Milk? Yes. When they can the milk, they actually have to measure how much milk goes in the can. Okay, you again. Yes, when you build a house, they have to actually measure. Could you imagine if somebody build a house and one person use foot and the other person use meter, how the house would probably be lopsided? Okay, so some of the importance of measurements include measurements in industrial development, measurement in manufacturing process. As I just mentioned, the milk is a good example. They have to measure the amount of milk that goes into a tin, and then based on that amount, that's what they will sell you. From the health and safety, if you go by the doctor is going to take your temperature, he's going to weigh you, he's going to measure your heartbeat, measure your blood pressure, and then he's going to make a decision and give you medication. And the medication again has to be accurate of prescription, otherwise you might get sick instead of getting better. Product testing, fair trade. How much you all ever go to the supermarket? Everybody goes to the supermarket. And when you go to the supermarket, if you go and buy a pound of potatoes, do you check the measurement? Yes. Okay. And if you ain't got the correct measurement, what you would do? You put it back, right? Okay. So that's all that is what we do. Make sure that when you go to the supermarket in St.Kitts-Nevis, that you have the scales are being checked to make sure that you buy a pound of potato in Sandy Point or you buy a pound of potato in Bastia, it is the same pound. And when your parents go to the gas station and they fill up the cars, that they actually get in a gallon of gas when they pay for a gallon of gas. And scientific advancements. How much of you have cell phones? Everybody have cell phone? You ever see your parents' old cell phone? You realize how old and so slow and stupid they look? All of that because of scientific advancement, because they could measure better, then they could produce better technology, they could put better cell phones. When I was growing up, this kind of screen never existed. We had big box screen where you had to turn the dial and so forth. In the environment. The environment as well, they use measurements to monitor the environment. Okay, again, as I mentioned, the importance of measurement in fair trade. One thing that we do at the Bureau of Standards, we ensure that scales are measured, scales are verified so that they are correct. We also ensure that the gas pumps are checked so that the amount of gas being delivered or the amount of gas being pumped is actually what people pay for. So how do we measure? So we measure by guess. And y'all ever do that? Like, yeah? So give an example of where you do that. But you measure by guess. Go ahead. You go ahead, yeah. Maths? So you measure by guess in maths? Okay. You? In factors? Okay. So you measure by visual. Sometimes you can look at something and say, you can measure by guess. I could guess how long the pencil is. I could just take a guess and say, okay, it looks like it's about 5 inches. I didn't use any instrument, but that's a guess. Mechanical, you could take a tape measure and I could actually measure the pencil. I could take a tape measure and I could measure the pencil and confirm the actual size of the pencil. Chemicals, when you're using your soap, you're eating your candies and so, all these things have ingredients that have to be measured to make sure that they're safe for you to consume. Electrical, lights. The lights are measured by using an electrical meter. There are now also other devices. I don't know how much you are. How much you ever go to the doctor and they put a small little red thing on your tongue? You? The small little thing on your finger. Yeah. And what does it check? Temperature. What else? Pressure. Okay. And also check the amount of oxygen in your blood as well. And there are some measurements that are automatic. They're actually robots that actually do measurements. The persons don't have to actually physically sit there and do the measurements. In more developed countries, they would have a device set up, and every 10 seconds they will take a measurement. Now, we didn't just start to measure. Basically, since men came into existence, we've always been measuring. We've been measuring how hot, how cold, how long, how short, with all the measuring things. One of the oldest recorded measurements is the cubit. The cubit was measured in Egypt when they were building the pyramids. And what happened, the pharaoh would select one of his royal subjects, and he would use the tip of the royal subject to the arm, and that was considered a cubit. And he had to calibrate this. He had to do what we call a calibration. Now, a calibration is basically every 30 days for this particular measurement, which is a cubit, he had to measure this length on a granite stone. And if he failed to do it, so if you wake up, if he oversleep and he didn't wake up on a full moon and he forget to do it, maybe he went to a party and he forget to do it, the punishment for that was death. So that's how serious they took measurement. Okay. So let's go back let's go back a bit. I need two volunteers. Okay, you, back here, and you. No, this is just. Okay. Okay. So we're gonna look at the two of both of your feet. Okay, look at his feet and her feet. Now imagine back in the old days, both of those were rulers of a nation, and they had to trade between each other. And they're going by foot. So at one point, because her foot size is different to his foot size, there would be the trade would not be fair. They would not be able to battle between one another fairly. So sometimes he would win, sometimes she would win, sometimes they would lose. So just in the difference in sizes, they used to use the body parts of the leaders of different communities as a form of measurement system. Okay? And thank you very much for coming. So, human beings, you all know we like to organize, right? How much do I like to organize your things at home? Right? So that's a natural thing for us to do. We like to organize stuff. So we decide we're going to organize all these measurements and we're going to use one measurement system. Okay. So, what do you think the term metrology means? Anybody? Okay, you? One? Okay. Anybody else? To do with science, to do measurement, it has to be science. Okay. Anybody else? Okay, let me get it. Has to do with technology. You? Has to do with understanding. Okay. Anybody else? Okay. So put it all you're correct. But I'm going to put everything together and give you what the definition of metrology is. Metrology is the science of measurement. Men decided that we want to create a study of that, so we have the science of metrology, which is purely based on measurement. It includes all aspects, both theoretical and practical, with reference to measurements. The different types of metrology: scientific, legal, and industrial. What we do mainly in St. Kitts is legal metrology, where again we verify the pumps and we verify the scales. We make sure that the scales are accurate and we make sure that the pumps are accurate. So these are some of the impacts of metrology. You have reliability in measurements. You have improved trading arrangement, just like I showed you a while ago. You have a better application of measurement methods and instruments. You have you have less this is a little difficult. We have more. People can trade better with one another because of better measurements. You have improved quality of products and services. That means that you don't have to worry. If you're buying a soap, if you go to the store and you're buying a candy, it will always taste the same. Could you imagine if somebody were to bake a cake and the ingredient calls for them to put in 1 teaspoon of salt, but they decide they're going to put in a tablespoonful of salt? How would that cake taste? How would it taste? Anybody? You? It tastes salty. Exactly. And if your mother gave you a salt cake, you would eat it?
The students actively participated in an experiment that showed the importance of measurement. Each student was asked to put in a different amount of baking soda, vinegar, dishwashing liquid, and a drop of food coloring in a cup.
They did some measurement in both volume and in mass. So now everybody have soap and Exposure, also. So now we want you all to take a cup of the vinegar and pour it into a cup of the baking soda. And we're going to see what happens. Now I want you all to observe what happens. Okay, so based on this, who do you think had the most baking soda? Right here. Is that? What's the name? Mary, right? Okay, now, based on this, who do you think had the least baking soda? Okay, right. Which one? Right. That was me? Yeah. Okay.
She.
Okay.
No, she.
Okay, right?
She got 4.
Okay.
He got 7.
But it's actually okay. He actually on paper his own is more than hers. But the reaction was different. So what you all think happened in the measurements? Anybody else? So they had more soap. One person might have more soap than the other one. Anybody else? Okay, but I don't want it. You all know you all can answer the question. The audience. Anybody else? Alright. So what happened is that somewhere between both of them, the measurements were not what they supposed to be. Because hers was supposed to be less than this. So if you put the measurements up, that you get different reaction because of the amount. The same experiment, the same ingredients, but one didn't react, two didn't react so well, and this was the most reactive one because it had the most baking soda in it. Everything else was the same, virtually the same. And between the two of them, she probably had in a little bit more soap or she had a little bit more baking soda than him. So the difference showed up when they added the components together.
After the experiment, the students were quizzed and won prizes for their correct answers. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to our channel to be alerted when we upload a new video. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.